Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most visually stunning and honestly hotly debated geographical anomalies on the entire planet. For decades, astronauts orbiting the Earth have literally used this massive, awe-inspiring landmark in Mauritania just to navigate. Officially, it's called the Richat Structure. It's the sprawling, multi-ringed bullseye measuring miles across, completely isolated out there in a barren landscape. But while geologists have been busy studying its rings, a totally different, incredibly compelling conversation has been quietly building around it. Let's break down the source material and see exactly what's sparking all this intense debate. And that brings us right to the central mystery we're looking at today. Does a legendary city lie buried in the Sahara? Now, we aren't just talking about any old lost settlement here. We're talking about the very real possibility that this massive geological marvel could actually be the legendary lost city of Atlantis. I know, right? Atlantis is usually imagined sitting at the bottom of the ocean, but the sources we're unpacking today present a really fascinating alternative. What if the remnants of this fabled civilization have just been hiding in plain sight this whole time, baked right beneath the scorching sands of the world's largest hot desert? To truly grasp the sheer scale of this thing, you've got to see it from way above. It literally looks like a giant blue eye staring right back up from the desolate desert sands. When you zoom in via satellite, you can see how it just pops right out of the earth in these vivid hues of blue and brown. Just imagine taking this completely desolate modern landscape and overlaying it with the haunting, semi-transparent lines of ancient maritime maps. Suddenly, the vast empty spaces of the Sahara start looking like an ancient, highly interconnected world. This giant eye is going to serve as our main geographic anchor for today. Section 1. Plato's Blueprint versus Reality. You really can't talk about Atlantis without bringing up the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, right? He's the one who provided these highly detailed descriptions of its layout. If we treat his ancient works, the Critias and the Timaeus, almost like an architectural blueprint, he wrote that the city was structured with alternating concentric rings of water and land. Specifically, he mentioned 2 rings of land and 3 of water, all enclosing a central island. And here's the kicker. That specific ringed geometry is exactly what we find when we look at the eye of the Sahara. When you look at the 3D topography of the Richat Structure, you clearly see these alternating raised ridges and sunken valleys. Now, if you compare that directly to an architectural reconstruction of Atlantis based strictly on Plato's writings, well, the visual similarities between the geological anomaly and the mythical city are pretty hard to ignore. The alternating rings of land and what would have been water back in Plato's time match up almost flawlessly. It's honestly like looking at a mirror image of myth and modern topographical data. But the absolutely crucial point here isn't just that they both happen to have rings. It's the actual math behind them. See, Plato measured the city in stadia, which is an ancient Greek unit. When you convert that over, the diameter of the city comes out to roughly 23.5 kilometers. Astonishingly, when you measure the prominent primary rings of the Richat Structure in Mauritania today, the diameter aligns exactly with that 23.5-kilometer measurement from the ancient text. It's a spot-on match. And the details keep lining up. In Plato's account, he mentions that the outer rings of the city had a channel or an opening that faced directly to the south, leading all the way out to the ocean. Well, when we analyze the geological footprint of the eye of the Sahara, there happens to be a very distinct wide opening right in the outer circular ridge. And just like the ancient blueprint dictates, this massive geological opening is perfectly positioned facing straight south. Section 2. The Lost Maritime Connection. Okay, so you might be wondering, even with matching rings and exact measurements, how on earth could a thriving city with a massive naval fleet exist out in the bone-dry Sahara? Well, the answer actually lies in climate history, specifically an era known as the Green Sahara. Thousands of years ago, during the African humid period, the climate was drastically different. If we could go back in time, we'd see those yellow sands replaced by lush vegetation, massive lakes, and vast, deep river networks. The region surrounding the Richat Structure was absolutely capable of sustaining flowing water, which would have provided direct, navigable access all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. And then there are the building materials. Plato specifically noted that the Atlanteans quarried stone from the central island and the surrounding rings, explicitly stating this stone was red, black, and white. Well, looking at the modern geology, the naturally occurring volcanic and sedimentary rocks found right at the site in Mauritania are precisely red, black, and white. No joke. This uncanny match between an ancient text and the locally occurring rocks is definitely one of the most gripping details we've found in the source material. Section 3. Bridging Myth and Geology. So let's bring all these pieces together. When we map that legendary blueprint directly onto the terrestrial footprint, just watch how beautifully it fits. The central island sits right over the raised center of the Richat Dome. The concentric water rings align completely with the deep eroded valleys. And the land rings? They perfectly trace the hardened, raised rocky ridges. When guided over the modern desert terrain, the correlation is incredibly snug. Every single ring Plato described finds a corresponding geological counterpart right there on the ground. So, how did this structure actually come to be? Well, we basically have two primary theories here. On one side, we have the widely accepted geological erosion theory, which posits that the eye is a completely natural formation, just a deeply eroded geological dome, created over millions of years of volcanic uplift and wind erosion. On the flip side, we have the man-made civilization theory, which argues that the site was utilized, heavily modified, or even constructed by an ancient civilization, perfectly matching the Atlantis myth. It's fascinating because both theories look at the exact same incredible topography, but they draw vastly different conclusions. Section 4. A mystery beneath the sand. After looking at all these striking parallels, from ancient measurements and colored stones to the wild climate history of a green Sahara, we kind of have to pull back to what remains today. The eye at sunset. It's like a silent watcher over the windswept ripples of the Sahara. The stark contrast between a bustling, advanced maritime myth and the incredibly silent, desolate reality of the Mauritanian desert today is honestly profound. Whether it was carved by ancient hands or sculpted purely by nature, the Richat Structure absolutely remains one of the most captivating sights on our entire planet. So what does this all mean? Does history actually lie buried beneath the sand? The sources we've explored today show that the parallels between Plato's ancient text and the Eye of the Sahara are undeniably fascinating. Is it simply a magnificent 1,000,000-to-1 geological coincidence? Or is there a lost chapter of human history just waiting to be unearthed out there in the desert? That is the mystery that continues to ignite so much curiosity. Keep questioning what you see and stay curious.